How you doing, folks? You're listening to the Onward with Onrie podcast. I'm your host, Onrie Kompan, and today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Ted Sikora. He is the author and publisher and a bunch of other things on a number of comics that are published under his banner, Hero Tomorrow. You may have heard of his newest book, Tap Dance Killer, which is sold out through Diamond, along with his other hit series, Apama. And he's got other stuff in the works, and today I wanted to bring him on to talk about his process because, we're both, I want to say we're both doing the same thing in a lot of ways, but at different capacities, and, I think everybody has a special gift in this industry. There's something that we all add that's unique to the comics world when we commit ourselves 100% to it. So, Ted, why don't you kind of tell us what you do on the series, like where do your responsibilities begin and how far do they extend?
Yeah, sure. Apama, the Undiscovered Animal, was actually a series that was a spin-off from a feature film that I directed called Hero Tomorrow. And Hero Tomorrow is about a guy who has an idea for a superhero. He can't get it published, but his girlfriend makes him a costume of his own character. Once he has that, he starts running around in it trying to fight crime. So the movie debuted at the big Comic-Con in San Diego, played film festivals all over the world. One thing we kept hearing is this Apama idea that our struggling creator is trying to push is really unlike anything in comics, and we should consider doing it as a book. So we decided to publish the book that was in our main character's head. It's a completely separate world, and Apama is about an ice cream truck driver in Cleveland who unlocks the spirit force of the most savage creature mankind has never known, the Apama. So, we didn't know anything about making comics other than, all through high school I wanted to be a comic book artist, And so I've collected my whole life, and doing the film, I storyboarded the entire movie. I did like 1,500 images before we ever shot anything. So that really taught me, I think, a good discipline about, sequential shots telling a story. And that definitely, I think, transitioned well into doing comics. So our first step, Milo Miller, who's the co-writer on this, and I, we put out an ad for an artist. At the time, we'd used DeviantArt, and ended up getting over 100 submissions from all over the world. And Benito Gallego was our choice. We loved his work. It had a very sort of bronze, Silver Age feel to it.
It totally does. And I really, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
I just, I'm a big fan of Apama, and I read a number of the issues already, and his work is just really fantastic. He works with Roy Thomas too, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And he actually got Roy to write our foreword for Volume 2, which was nice.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Roy's a legend, and yeah. But go on.
All right. So he's going to be doing the penciling and the inking, and then I thought I could do the coloring. Because we were really just trying to keep the costs down, and so I, just kind of trial and errored my way through Photoshop with a tablet, and got through the first issue. And I was, you just learn along the way, and you keep. And I did the lettering as well using Illustrator. Again, just trying to keep the costs down. My degree, I was in advertising, so I had a little bit of a layout background. So I thought I could do that. And I also find, and I recommend this to everybody, writers especially, to try lettering the book yourself. Learn the skill set, because our book.
Where were you 10 years ago, Ted? I had to hire my own letterer and my own colorist. Only you were there to tell me to. But you certainly have a point. The more you can do by yourself, the more money you can take home at the end of the day. Because when you're out there selling it, however you sell it, and we'll get to how you guys sell, you have more to take home. You have less. You pay yourself out for the work you do.
And also, besides the money thing, I think there's an artistic thing that can be benefited, because
Sure.
If I can't even imagine, our script is so rough, and I know we've talked about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes back, then we really write the book. But writing the book, writing the captions, I should say, right on the art and seeing how it's going to fit. Even if you're just doing a rough job of it, I think is so valuable, and
Absolutely.
it just, and then you find out, gosh, I only need to learn a little bit more to really make this look nice. Then you can. I'm not trying to put letterers out of work here, but as a storyteller, I think it's very pure if you can pick up that skill set. The book I recommend to everybody is Comic Book Lettering: The Comic Craft Way, it's just an amazing read, even if you're just a comic book fan and not even thinking about lettering.
Well, lettering is truly an art form, and if I think the lesson to be learned here is if letterers can't find work, it's all Ted's fault. No, I'm just playing. But,
Sorry.
No, but what you're saying about lettering is very true. It's an art form. It's like it's the sound effects. Imagine like when the sound collaboration or when the sound calibration is not correct in a film, it can screw up the entire experience. And lettering is the same way, because in comics there are no sounds, they're just words and sound effects.
Yeah.
So understanding how all that works is extremely important. And the more you know, obviously, the stronger your abilities are. And it obviously goes beyond just simply writing a script. I mean, I was telling some people the other day that that were interested in learning more about comics that this is a really collaborative process. It's not a one-man thing. It's someone else has to be a part of the process. Whether even if you're doing it all by yourself, there's got to be someone there who's kind of like, mitigating the process.
Yeah, vetting ideas, I think
Sure.
is very important. Like if you're gonna, when we take on so many roles ourselves, we make sure we show it to a lot of people, get objective eyes on it, because every artist has blind spots.
Sure.
And it's why a lot of artists will, when they're doing their digital work, they'll just do a 180 horizontal flip, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, look at that face, how screwed up it is. Then you flip it back and you fix it. So it's that kind of thing. You just want to always get other viewpoints, other people looking at it.
Absolutely. I think it's better to get critiqued by your own team than it is by your audience. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
and of course, not everybody's always going to love what you do, but I think there's a satisfaction. You and I talked about this too. What we only get to live once, and when you put out your comic,
do we?
Well, thanks for fucking up my philosophical rant.
Go on.
Jesus.
Oh, we'll get philosophical if we put out this road.
But the thing that we were discussing is like, once your book is out there, it's out there, and you want to do your best work. You don't want to rush it out there. And I mean, you're dealing with Diamond, and I would love for you to tell us about your successes with them and what's going on with you like right now.
Sure. So we got pretty lucky. We did our, I guess I have to go back a little bit. When we did our first issue of Apama, we just put it up digitally on our movie website. It was just sort of a thing to draw people to the site. And what we found is a lot of people were really they were liking the book. We were getting a lot of great reviews on it, but they weren't really buying the movie. It wasn't prompting them to go that extra step. So, and on one level that didn't really work out. On the other level, we fell in love with making comics. So we ended up doing a second issue, put it up online, same thing, a lot of great reviews, no sales. And then we thought, all right, well, Comixology started their submit. And then we thought, okay, well, this is great. We don't have to deal with printing. And we were terrified of printing for some reason.
It's a daunting thing. I mean, like, you're looking at thousands of pounds of books that you have to figure out where to store, and selling them is a pain in the ass.
Or even getting them, finding a printer, getting them,
sure.
All that, before you have the piles of books. So we decided, well, we'll sell these digitally, and we were doing that on Comixology. We did issues 1 through 4. Then when we got to issue 5, we thought, this is the end of an arc. So let's do a Kickstarter. We'll raise, the funds to get a collection printed. And we did a 176-page collection. We raised about $14,000.
Dude, that's serious cashola right there, man. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
And you had a second campaign too, right?
We
For
did.
Your second hardcover.
But so what we did, we printed this first one, and here's a little lesson too. We didn't know anything about UPC codes or none of that, or ISBN, I should say. So, we printed them out, and then we submitted that to Diamond, and Diamond accepted it. They said, yeah, we'll put this in. We'll set you up as a seller. So, but they said, there's no barcode on this, so we had to do another print. And that was no big deal because we did get pretty close to selling out on that first print run. But if you're trying to multi-purpose these things, as I think we should be thinking, you should probably have that ISBN code on there.
I agree 100%. You definitely needed it. I mean, you can't sell on Amazon, you can't sell on other venues unless you have that on there, and especially with retail, like you said. So, I mean, it is one of those things, and I think everybody learns at their own capacity. You know what I mean? It's like it depends on what tools you have available, but either way, you got to where you are now, which is, you're one of the premier independent creators now, and you got a book that has sold out through Diamond, and you managed to raise a really strong amount of followers and money in order to bring your project to life. So now you're dealing with single issues. Before you were dealing with trades. So what's
right on? Well,
yeah.
So I'll go back in order, I think, to the Diamond thing a little bit because so Diamond accepts it, so they put it in their catalog. They also gave it a staff pick review, which is really nice. You get like a half-page review of the piece. It got a spotlight in the guide. I mean, it's very easy to get lost in that preview guide. I think people assume you're in Diamond and you've got it made or something, and Diamond's terrific, and I love them because we're put there, able to be bought, but it is still our job to market it, and the reviews certainly helped, but we pushed hard. We got reviews of the collection, and we had a pretty decent showing, I think, for that first trade. It wasn't great, but it was definitely enough to feel good about going forward. And then we did our second collection, and this time we had this sort of, quote, brilliant idea to just hold back all the single issues of any kind, not digital or printed, and just do a release of volume 2 like a Netflix series, 6 issues all at once. Did another Kickstarter, raised about the same amount of money, and put it in Diamond, and they gave it another staff pick review. They really liked it. And then we realized we kind of have painted ourselves into a corner with how we release things. It's sort of, we've been doing cons, of course. That's where we met at Baltimore Comic-Con. But I was like, there were 2 things that happened. In volume 2 of Apama, we introduced Tap Dance Killer. And she's this mega talented actress who gets cast in a horror show musical as the Tap Dance Killer, but then she can't shake the role. She starts taking it to the streets, thinks she's this 1920s vaudeville assassin. And images of her were being liked and shared on our Facebook page thousands of times.
You know what, Ted? It sounds like you're telling me the story of my ex-girlfriend.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. We all worked our shit out,
Yeah. So anyway, Tap Dance Killer, we thought this would be a really interesting spin-off, our first spin-off. And
Absolutely.
We don't want to wait for a trade to do this. Let's put her out as single issues. And then we thought, man, we've never put Apama out as single issues, and a lot of people haven't tried it for that reason. So we debuted Tap Dance Killer #1 and then a remastered Apama #1 back in, it was in the Diamond again got really behind this. They gave me a 2-page interview in the preview guide right up front.
That was awesome. I remember seeing that and reading it. That was great.
Yeah,
you were definitely in the indie spotlight, in the mainstream, distributor catalog. That's really cool.
It was awesome. And what I did, I took that opportunity to call hundreds of stores across the country. And my line was, hey, I'm the featured indie creator in this month's preview guide. We have 2 books that are debuting, Tap Dance Killer #1, Apama #1. I wonder if I could send you guys a little more info about those with some sample pages. And, across the board, the store owners were just really glad to hear from me, and I was surprised at that.
And dude, I was with you. We were in Planet Comic-Con together, and you had this huge spreadsheet. How many retailers did you call? 1,000 or something?
It might have been 1,000. It was right around.
I mean, that is hard fucking work. I mean, that is the same thing as me going to convention and pitching people my book, because you got to call up retail. It's not even the same thing, because when I'm at a convention, I can put my book in people's hands. You're calling up retailers who have no idea who you are. You're asking them to crack open this catalog while they are trying to keep their store up and running.
Yeah.
You're asking them to take interest in a book that no one knows about other than your audience, and you're asking them to stock it in their store. And you did it. You fucking did it, and you sold out. I mean, that's really incredible.
I do think that was a big turning point for whatever we're doing here. That we're known a little more by the stores, and really the stores in some ways are your customer. They're the ones who are actually, the money you get is coming from what the stores pay. And if they like it, they have a reason to share it with their customers. You can kind of multiply your sales force quite a bit if they get behind you. And truth is, we need the stores pretty bad, on single issues. If we're going to go through Diamond.
Absolutely. No, you know what? You have a vision, and I think you have a product that sits very well in that environment, because you and I have had many talks about production, and Apama is inspired a lot by a lot of the Spider-Man stuff that you and I both read growing up, like the stuff that Stan and Steve Ditko did, and John Romita, and like all the other artists. And even the feel of Apama is very much Spider-Man like, and it fits in that world. I think that that is a really that's a really key thing for you, and especially even with Tap Dance Killer. You have a character that you have a black female protagonist, which is something we don't have enough of right now, and you put just as much heart into it as you do with Apama, and you're telling a story, and you're trying to keep people engaged and poised to keep coming back. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that a lot of people, when they release their first issue, they have that big push, and then as soon as the first issue's out, they're like, okay, it's time to move on to the next project, and let this thing just sell itself. And what happens is naturally sales start to decline between each issue. You rarely see it where books issue 2 sells as much, if not more, than issue 1. So it's a challenge, because you have to constantly get out there and keep pushing it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing right now. You're trying to make deadlines, just trying to keep these relationships with your retailers going, and it's difficult.
Yeah, and it did generate a nice list of contacts that I can keep updating on our new releases and things. And going forward, it's hard to know how much of an impact that has, but I think it clearly has helped a bunch.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, Ted, well, we're going to start to wrap this up. Before we go, I'd like you to tell us where people can learn more about you, your products. Where can we buy your stuff?
Yeah, Facebook.com/Hero Tomorrow is sort of where all the latest news is. And then we do have HeroTomorrow.com, and that'll take you, there's a link right there to take you to our shop. And I really do appreciate everybody stopping by those sites and either giving it a like or taking a look. And we'll be on the con circuit here, New York Comic Con.
Yeah, so New York. What's your next show? Like, what's your next few shows?
I do a lot of stuff in Northeast Ohio, almost everything in Northeast Ohio. Baltimore and New York are the bigger ones that are outside of that region. I'll be doing that Cincinnati Comic Expo as well.
Yeah, I've heard that's a good show. So, folks, if you're at Cincinnati Comic Expo, make sure you come up to Ted, especially if you're a letterer, and fucking tell him that you can't find work, because he's a fucking asshole who got on my show and told every letterer, or told every artist out there,
writer,
every creator, guy, whatever. We really wear so many hats.
Yeah.
And, they just, do the lettering themselves. So if you see him at a convention, just come up there, tell him he sucks, and then buy his book. Well, don't tell him he sucks. Tell him he's great.
You can as long as you buy the book. Tell me
as long as you buy the book. Well, Ted, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you on here. I have an immense amount of respect for you and what you do.
Likewise.
And I look forward to seeing you progress in the industry, and and to being on the journey with you. So thank you for coming on. And folks, will be on next week with a brand new episode. Until then, onward to victory.